Hi, everybody. It is 1,497 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. Well, we're a little after midnight. We're burning the midnight oil tonight. Sorry for coming on so late, but lots going on and lots to do. Lots to do and lots going on. And the premeditatedly murdered Fort Bliss whistleblower soldiers case, Richard Halliday, our son Richard Halliday. For You might ask, why was he murdered? For whistleblowing, for reporting on the criminal trafficking that everyone is hearing about. Um, what do you call 325,000 unaccompanied minors coming in to the country? Unaccompanied minors. What do you call that? That's human trafficking. That's human trafficking. And for sure it's been confirmed because they are unaccounted for. So they come over unaccompanied, and then they're unaccounted for, and they're children. They're children. So, and of course, all of that trafficking, um, that money has to be laundered. That money has to go somewhere. And, it's done by fraud. It's absolutely done by fraud. So, Richard was reporting on the criminal trafficking and the fraud. So, we are at, it's over 4 years, 1,497 days. And, we have uh, grown a lot since then in our understanding of what's going on in El Paso. And we have um, tried to apply all of our rights as the parents, our rights to get answers about our son, our rights to get answers about our soldier, our rights to get answers from law enforcement agencies, our rights to get answers, period, and assert um, the very institutions and agencies, or let's say to drive them to do what we pay them to do. And, they work for us. They work for us. And yes, are they corrupt? My goodness. 4 years, 5 years for the Walmart case. Absolutely. But they are ours, and we have to, it's like your house is dirty. Okay. Can you believe it? The house is dirty. Well, who's going to clean it? We have to clean it. We have to clean up our house. And that means that our agencies, our institutions are ours to clean up. They work for us. They got very dirty, very, very dirty. And they have taken advantage of us. Um, Surprise, surprise, they've taken advantage of us. We became a very prosperous country, a very free country, like not ruled over, lorded over, and people took advantage and started doing just that. And now, when they come and they tell you how to live your life and everything, taking your taxes without giving you anything back, um, you know, uh, $37 trillion. You could say, oh, well, they give something back. No, $37 trillion in debt. Okay, that's not including unfunded liabilities. That's not including what they have spent already, what was um, on the budget. No, this is huge, huge. You can't wrap your head around $37 trillion even if you try. You can draw as many little diagrams or whatever, and you will never totally understand that kind of money. It is so huge. And, I can just tell you that every road in this country should be absolutely perfect, maybe with some silver on or gold on it, um, and rest stops and bridges and dams, and maybe we should have monorails, and or maybe all those airships, really cheap flight rails, all kinds. You can go on and on with your imagination of what $37 trillion just in debt. That's not including what already was spent, right? What already was stolen. Uh, uh, and of course, fraud, waste, and abuse is the theft um, against the American people and their future. And so, you know, you I can talk about that, but I think people are starting to realize it, that we have a dirty house. We have to clean it up. I hear a lot of complaints about the FBI right now. I hear a lot of complaints about Congress. From the very beginning of this, I've heard a lot of complaints that, and even from the people that harassed us and threatened us and were so bold and brazen, you see, they count on it. They count on us to lose our faith. They count on us to get exhausted just with the thought of um, driving them to do their job. Just the thought of cleaning our house, right? They count on us to get exhausted and say, oh no, maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow I'll wash those windows. Maybe tomorrow I'll vacuum. They count on that. And that's how they, thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Thank you so much. Good evening to you. And they count on us for just losing hope and being intimidated, just overwhelming us. And they absolutely told us we would never find Richard. We would never accomplish anything. Um, this, and then even some people that are not involved in the criminal group, would tell us, "Oh my gosh, there's just time. There's just you just need to quit. You just need to quit." And I I think that when you reflect back and you think, okay, how does my lessons from God's word help us through that? Well, Job was told over and over again by his friends just to curse God, and uh, you know, not not keep the faith. And that lesson, of course, and the lesson of Joseph, the story of Joseph, the lessons that you learned in that, the lessons with Moses, the lessons with Noah, the lessons with Jacob, the lessons, you can go on and on and on, and the lessons from Mary. And I would talk about Mary um, because evening prayer is always with the Magnificat, right? And um, and I need to mention evening prayer um, because that Mary's song is so inspirational. You cannot read it and go to sleep in a bad mood. You just you cannot, hear her sing and go to bed in a bad mood. Um, it gives you that jolt of faith to move forward. and to trust that God is going to expose what he wants to expose at the time that he wants to expose it, and that you are his servant. you are you are his friend, right? To me, our job is um, to establish God's kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. That's it. And why am I telling you this? Because we have such great news. Great news. We are seeing fruit of our hard work against a very corrupt investigation. There is absolutely nobody left that says that the investigation into Richard Halliday's murder was on the up and up. There's absolutely no one left to say that. It was absolutely a very corrupt investigation. And we have had to clean house and give everybody what we knew was the truth and prove it with the truth and give people evidence and create files and then file those files with evidence and um, just ask for open records upon open records. And, it's very difficult to read through those open records. It really is. It's very difficult. And they depend on that too. But I would recommend everybody, at least every quarter, request some kind of open records. Something that interests you, something that applies to your life. You need to learn how to, because I've never done it until this case, um, ask for open records, you know, because the government absolutely works for you, and we need to let them know that we're checking up on them. And just periodically ask for open records. Say, I want to know what so and so said or did or whatever or spent. Um, and, when we asked Amy Snoddy, because a lot of these open records were not answered, um, but enough were, and they are being answered, more and more every day. Um, and that's another thing. Don't get disillusioned. They might not answer you, but that's an answer, isn't it? To not answer us is an answer. Um, and so you have to, might want to dig a little deeper, because Amy Snoddy, who does the whole, I guess, when you have financing that you want to know about, like how much has been spent on the Patrick Crucius case, which is the Walmart mass shooting case in El Paso. Well, how much was spent on it? How much have you given up? They wouldn't give us an accounting, because millions and millions of dollars has been spent on it already, and not one scheduled, not even a mental health evaluation was scheduled on Patrick Crucius, which is absolutely, absolutely intolerable. And they need to be held accountable for this. And who was trying to do this money grab? Who was doing this money grab? Well, it was Bill Hicks. It was John Briggs, along with their little groupie of Bob Moore of El Paso Matters and Justin Underwood. Please, when you watch Justin Underwood's commercials, please um, have a pail next to you. But it really is an insult, because he wants to portray himself as a patriot, and he is the opposite, quite the opposite. And the only way you would know it really is these open records, right? Access to the open records. And what have we found out? Well, we found out that Bill Hicks is a usurper, that he failed to install correctly as the district attorney. but worse than that. Okay, so we found out that he schemed with John Briggs and Bob Moore and Justin Underwood and Omar Carmona. Um, you know, there was others to remove a duly elected official, who in this case was Yvonne Rosales as a DA. Um, but they did that, and they schemed to replace her with Bill Hicks. And open records, you can look at his application, and his application is so bad, right? Um, what do I mean by that? Well, in Texas, you have lots of very, very good lawyers. You can say, oh, lawyers are corrupt and everything. Yes, but you have very smart people. You have very qualified lawyers. Um, why would you pick Bill Hicks after looking at his application? I wouldn't. I wouldn't pick him. So there must be a different reason why they picked him, right? He was a recess appointment also, which means he didn't have to go under any kind of scrutiny from the Senate, the Texas Senate. So, he had it made. He had something. He had something besides qualification. I mean, I guess you can say he had some qualifications, but you know, he was in financial trouble, y'all. Big time financial trouble. And, he just got done scheming to get rid of Yvonne Rosales. And he's in big time financial trouble, not even paying his rent on some business with his wife. And, he wanted the money. Now, why would you pick someone like that? He had complaints against him. I mean, he has some dirty laundry, and he has conflicts of interest that is very, very clear with Purchase Funeral Homes. Um, and here he was supposed to, never did, but prosecute the Walmart mass shooting case. Um, and he has conflicts of interest. So why would anybody want to pick him if he has such deficiencies? I think so many negatives, so many negatives. So he had something else. He had something else, and or there was some other, um, you know, uh, the want. I mean, of course, for him it was a want for money, but the need to cover up the Walmart mass shooting, the need to cover up, or, uh, well, let's say this, stall the Walmart case and absolutely stop any kind of investigation into the murder of Richard. Okay. So that's what we absolutely believe, because all that Bill Hicks has really talked about, the politicking, right? Politicking um, the Walmart case. Okay. That has been his focus. It's been a huge money grab. They have spent, I don't know how many millions on that case, and I believe they've spent millions on Richard's case, um, because of just all the pushback that we had to um, kind of knock off. It's like those bullets coming at you in the Matrix, and you have to flick them. You just flick them, and then debunking the false narrative that it must have cost so much money. 15 plus agencies, I mean, I don't even know. Did they pay out bribes or whatever? I don't know. I don't know. Um, so and because of your support, because of your help, um, we have moved forward and we are getting some unbelievable information. Bill Hicks. See, every day that Bill Hicks walks into that office, and that's why he's not walking into the office, he is piling another charge on himself, right? Another fraud. And to, he is a usurper. He is not authorized to sign the documents that he signs. And to give you an example, he cannot right now, if he's smart, um, well, if he tried to get a death penalty, if he won a death penalty against a capital murder case, at this time, he would be guilty of murder himself because he's not authorized to prosecute someone um, in a capital murder case to the death penalty, right? And I wish I had all the legal words, maybe next week. Maybe next week I'll learn all the words that go, because this is so important. He, if he signs off on the prosecution, sending someone to lethal injection, to the death penalty, because he is not legal, because he is not authorized to do that, that he himself is committing murder. That's so important. Not, you can't just go into that office as a usurper and sentence people, right? Or prosecute them to a certain sentence and think you're not going to be held accountable. You're going in there criminally. What you're doing in there is criminal. So that is really important. And that word is getting out. Enough lawyers are understanding that. Enough law enforcement is understanding that. And the institutional support that Bill Hicks once had is absolutely shattering, is absolutely crumbling. It's like the clay feet at the bottom of the big Daniel's statue, right? Uh, his dream, the shattering, the clay. It's because he was in there on a very weak premise, which was just like a paper tiger, like a house of cards. It's crumbling. It does not have any good uh, beams, stable beams and foundation or anything like that. He's not standing on the law. And when he's not standing on truth and law, um, your life shatters apart. And that is what's happening to Bill Hicks right now. And his office. His office is only running at half capacity right now because he can't get any kind of a new lawyer that has debt, right? Education debt, student loan debt, doesn't want to go and work for him. They rather sit with their student loan debt than go and work for the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office because a usurper is in charge of it. And they're like, I don't want to go near that. So that was a very good warning that we gave the law schools because, you don't want to come out of law school and have a usurper um, boss, right? A usurper in charge of the law office, the district attorney's office. That you're supposed to be, having mentors above you, not criminals. You're in there to stop criminals, to prosecute criminals, not to have criminals lord over you. And this is a super unique time because not only did Bill Hicks, uh, scheme to tamper with his timestamps to cover up that he did not um, sign his statement of officers anti-bribery statement that's required before taking the oath of office. He didn't do that. He didn't execute that in a timely manner. He didn't do that right. He has no excuse because he was once a judge. He knows how to do it. He knows how to do it. He knows that in Texas you have to sign that anti-bribery statement before you take the oath of office. And he didn't do it. And when he was called out, so that's in December of 2022, when he was called out on January 25th of 2023 by the Secretary of State, he then schemed to tamper with the timestamps. And on the 26th, um, he tampered with government records, government files. So, he is so willing to commit one crime after the next. And so, not only did he do that, but he absolutely schemed unlawfully to remove Yvonne Rosales. That's not his job. That's not his job to be a criminal. His job is to prosecute criminals, not to be a criminal. And the biggest kind, that's just like betrayal. Betrayal of our system. And if you can't trust the system, if you can't trust that when you win an election, fair and square, right? Now, I know there's unfair elections right now, right? Because we have the schemers out there. But Yvonne Rosales won. She was an upset candidate. And she won. We've looked into that whole election. She won that election. And they needed to honor that. But she was retaliated against the minute she got into her office. It just started, just like with our son's case, just asking what happened to our son. And we were absolutely misdirected. We were lied. Our son was being smeared. We were thrown out. We were brought back in. It was absolutely a botched case from the beginning, a very corrupt case from the beginning. And, we cannot move forward with our system being so dirty. We can't. And it's time for everyone to get out their rubber gloves and get out their mops and get out their dust rags and get out their pails and so to speak. And we need to start cleaning up our system because it's ours. We need to do some maintenance. And so Rob and I, of course, we were just given really, I don't want to say not an option, not a choice or whatever, but you don't want to go through what we had to go through in order to get brave enough to pick up the mop, pick up the broom, pick up the dust cloth. You don't want to have to go through. You want to do it um, in a much nicer way. In a much nicer way. This has been absolutely heartbreaking, hell, you name it. And so we're just like suggesting, suggesting that you go ahead and um, and participate in the cleanup um, without having to go through what we've gone through. So, and if we all do it, many hands make light work. Many hands make light work, and so that's why things are starting to happen now. Because after 4 years of a lot of work, um, lots of late nights, and um, a lot of letters, a lot of emails, a lot of discussions, a lot of leads, a lot of investigation. Um, we're starting to get the cleanup team doing their job. Yeah, and uh, he has lost his institutional support for the most part. And, we are just pray that Yvonne Rosales will assert herself and come into that position. We are hearing it is rattled. It's rattled because the law enforcement now is standing up against Bill Hicks and that group. So that is really, really good news. And why is that so important? Because we know that we need a prosecutor to prosecute our son's case. And Bill Hicks was absolutely horrible to us. Absolutely horrible. I mean, no, he just absolutely is derelict in his duty, which was another indication that he was a usurper for a cover up, to cover up. And like I said, if they moved forward with the Walmart mass shooting case, um, and they came to the rightful conclusion, which is so easy. See, this is the thing that people don't know. Um, maybe you do know it. You're, you know, I think people are starting to realize it. But the Walmart mass shooting is not a hard case to figure out. The evidence is so huge. The conflicts of interest, the lack of shells, the testimonies, the unreliable sources, uh, the videos, the, you know, all, there's just very clearly you can see that it was to divert attention, to kill people, to divide a community, and to affect an election. And that it was orchestrated to do so. And also to do a cash grab, to make money, to do some kind of bond, to, it's not a coincidence that El Paso community didn't want to build a new police headquarters before and then afterwards. Okay. So, sorry. Um, so absolutely, it is very clear. It only took us what, not even a day, and then if you want to do a more thorough job, couple days. There is so much information out there that is hard evidence. Um, and when you see the people that are the unreliable sources and what they did, it really is despicable, and they need to be held accountable for what they did. And I'm talking about Ernest Christopher Grant and others and others, and the media, like Beto O'Rourke. Um, he was up to no good. Um, and I'm sure, Chris Cuomo, there's others, right? And so Bill Hicks was meant to not even do one thing in that Walmart mass shooting case, because if it got started at all, it wouldn't take long at all to discover what a setup it was, what an orchestrated crime it was, and not a lone shooter. Okay. So, and Glendon Oakley Jr. Uh, was a big part of that. And rest in peace, Glendon. Um, but we have his testimony. And that is, that's why they can't go forward. They just cannot go forward with that case. It's going to be so interesting because they want to do some kind of trial, set a trial date like in September. I think they're going to get together. It's going to be really interesting, um, because if Richard's case is solved, or if the Walmart case is solved, then the other one will be solved also. They're just very connected, the same people. It's, Bliss Avenue, that 3905 Bliss Avenue, and other things that really connects the two cases. And so, that's why having a proper district attorney is so important. That case needs to be moved forward in order for us to get justice, or Richard's case needs to be move forward for the Walmart victims to get justice, for the El Paso community to get justice. It's it's really clear, and when you look into it, you can absolutely go, oh wow, these two are these same criminals, criminals. So that's why we're very hopeful, um, that the law enforcement now, there's enough of them that are calling out uh, the crime that Bill Hicks has committed. And that's huge. That's huge. We're not alone. The law enforcement are there with us, and they want their community. Um, the whole criminal justice system was in shambles, and I think they've had enough of it. I think they've had their belly full and they want a clean house. And so, first things first, they need to arrest Bill Hicks. That would be, um, yeah, that would be one big sweep. Um, that would be very helpful for El Paso and for those cases moving forward. So let's pray for Yvonne Rosales. Um, Another thing that I wanted to talk about was the Mercedes. I put the picture up of the Mercedes of Richard's messaging to us about the Mercedes in December of 2019. And that's really important. Um, that Mercedes is from New Mexico. I will tell you this. Dallas Hart went to school in New Mexico. Um, I will also tell you that that car, from our information that we're getting, connects Richard to Nadal Baim way before he walked into that Dollar General store. That car connects. Yeah. And that is huge hard evidence that we have. Um, there's tax fraud going on there. Um, LLCs giving us information. And that's why the LLCs became so important to us in this, because the LLCs are the ones that, because if you're going to be in criminal activity and criminal trafficking, you have to have a way to launder the money. You have to have a way. Yeah. And there is tax fraud. There is contract fraud. There is um, I would say real estate fraud, um, and with the cars, that was also um, fraud going on there. But the huge news, that's breaking news, right? I'm giving you breaking news. Um, but Nadal Baim knew Richard. He knew of him. He knew him, in our opinion. In our opinion. Um, from the information that we have been given. And that's why, when we post that car, there's a lot of interest in that car because people know that car. They know it. So, the other thing, I think, the severe legal consequences. And I already mentioned that. And I should mention it in regards to the stolen image of Richard. This is another thing that is multiple felonies were committed in really like a single act. Well, I shouldn't say a single act. It was, uh, you know, pretty quick to act, or I don't know. When they walked into a government office and accessed a government computer and pulled up Richard's file and pulled out their camera, being a phone, whatever, and took a picture of the screen of the computer, the government computer. That was an image of Richard, but not expanded to a full screen, right? They took a picture, not paying attention to what was around and behind the image of Richard. And they took a picture of email. They took a picture of other information behind Richard and on this government computer. So it's taken us a long time to understand, uh, the crimes that committed. Those are felony crimes. And, since we don't think that way or whatever, it took us a while and we really apologize, but we're absolutely addressing that issue right now because that image was used on social media, which is another crime, and the social media of a group, a criminal group that was impersonating us, that was harassing us, that was threatening us, that was harassing Richard, right? I mean, here he is murdered, and they're still, retaliating against him. And so that is also obstructing justice, putting out false information, or uh, uh, framing a false narrative around the case of Richard. And there's so much to this, um, because he was taken in front of the magistrate court. Uh, there's so much to that I just want to tell you for now. Stay tuned. Stay tuned because we put out a warning just a few minutes ago before we came on. With this in mind, the severe legal consequences of these felony criminal acts. We call it Bob Moore's group, right? Bob Moore's group. And of course, you have the usurper Bill Hicks working with Bob Moore, and that means it connects these this group, these two groups. And of course, you have John Briggs being, the one in the ear of Bill Hicks, um, and he was also committing huge crimes, y'all, huge crimes. And of course, Justin Underwood committing huge crimes. So there are going to be, and going on right now, severe legal consequences for this kind of crime. But taking a picture, because that image of Richard was the one used in the composite with Dallas Hart's image that was given to Interpol. So one crime begat another crime, begat another crime, begat another crime. This is what has happened. And so we are really pressing hard to get that investigated. We want to know because in that government building, in that government office, by that government computer are cameras. And those cameras never get erased. Those cameras will show us who took the illegal picture, photograph of the screen of the computer after accessing Richard's file or any file, but in this case, Richard's file, which is illegal without open records, without authority, um, and the person giving them might have had the authority, but not to someone that's standing there, not signing off on an open records request like we've done so many times, putting our name down. Everyone knows who we are, right? Just going in there and stealing and accessing unauthorized access to a computer, um, a government computer, and taking a picture. Now, the Texas Rangers have just arrested law enforcement for doing just that. So, call Texas Rangers and let them know what happened, because we have submitted our complaints to them with the information, and they need to absolutely tell us who took that picture illegally, and because a lot of crimes were used, um, a lot of crimes were committed with that picture. It's a huge piece of evidence. And so, I hope I explained that well. I hope I did. Um, it's just another crime in this very corrupt investigation of our son, and we just can't let it be. They have to hold people accountable, and it looks like I think the first one that's going to be held accountable, I don't know. We hear all kinds of things behind the scenes, what's going on, because so many people have been held accountable already, right? Jeff Downey's gone. He was the FBI there. He's gone. Where is he? They removed him. Same thing with Robert Shook, the judge. And they do it very quietly so that people don't realize that things are happening. Because when things happen, people get inspired, right? They aspire for justice, and their lost hope changes to hopefulness, right? And justice, and they get cleaning. It's like, oh yeah, I cleaned that window. It looks really good. I'm going to clean the next window. I'm going to clean the next window. And then people join in and say, ooh, wow, your windows are sparkly clean. I'm going to go and clean these other windows. So it's just the justice is very contagious in a good way. And, um, we have the Department of State general counselor. He got pulled off. Um, of course, Tavita Nusa lost his badge. We have um, confirmation that he lost his badge. Way before September um, of 2021. So our estimated date is in March that he lost his badge um, because he was just not CID material. Okay, he was not fit to have the badge. Okay, that is in I we would say March of 2021. And we know that he was not doing well after the murder of Richard. Okay. I think Richard was haunting him. I think Richard was haunting him, just like Richard haunts Leilani, just like Richard haunts this criminal group. Um, yeah. So, for us, Richard is, and I mentioned this last night, he's like this energy light that's saying, come on, keep going, keep going. Don't give up. We're getting close, right? And we are. And also, don't forget one of the biggest displays of institutional support that we received and a huge victory is the designation. They're admitting that Richard was murdered. That was a huge, not a happy victory at all. Miserable, a hellish victory, um, but a one that was necessary for us to move forward, to request his remains, to let them know that we weren't satisfied um, with them saying that he was killed on Fort Bliss and they're not giving us his remains. You just don't have a soldier being murdered on Fort Bliss and you don't have his remains or don't know where his remains are, or an explanation for it, right? So we absolutely, that tells you right there that Richard was murdered and that this was a cover up because there's cameras everywhere. And we know that from the director of emergency services and, you know, um, and others. uh, that this was a really botched case, a very corrupt case, and and at the cost of our son's life, at the cost of his remains being dishonored, which is a huge crime. And it might not mean a lot to other people, especially people that, like to traffic human beings and um, do despicable things. But it means a lot to us that these people be held accountable for the way they treated the remains of our son, for the murder of him, for the retaliation that he received for being a whistleblower, um, the murder, and also for the way they treated his remains. Absolutely not acceptable to us. And we want those that did these despicable things to be held accountable, to send a very loud message that that is not tolerated at all, at all. And just like this human trafficking, no way, no way. So thank you so much for your support. And I hope I answered a lot of questions. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. And if I can answer them, I will. And please share this. Share this story. It's so important because really, how horrible it is, it's becoming, we hope, a little bit of an inspiration to people that feel like they can't get justice, or they can't um, get answers, or they don't know how to get answers. We hope that we can turn this into a little bit of a blessing to people, that that there is a way. There is a way, that a government is not too big, and that a group that has such an established presence um, is not too big to fall, too big to be held accountable. Um, so, yeah. Thank you so much. God bless you. And oh, we'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.